Hello crafters, I'm JanB and I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator. Today I'm going to show you how I made this fancy fold card. I don't know if it has a name, but I'm just going to call it a double fold. Before I tell you the card pieces that you're going to need, I would like to give a shout out to Annette Sullivan, who goes by the name of Lavender Thoughts. It was her video that I got this idea from. But I had to just change up the sizes. But it was her idea how to cut these layers, because obviously you've got a U shape there and a U shape there, and her idea was just absolutely brilliant. I will put a link to her blog in the box below, so please do check her out. Right, so card pieces that you're going to be needing. Now I have only done this in inches. If you want the metric sizes, it will be a slightly different size card, but I'm sure that Annette did hers in metric. Right, so the card pieces you're going to need: a piece of crumb cake which measures 8 1/4 inches by 5 3/4 inches, a piece of Whisper White that's 7 7/8 inches by 5 5/8 inches, a piece of All My Love Designer Series paper which measures 7 1/2 inches by 5 1/2 inches. You'll need a piece of crumb cake which measures 3 1/8 inches by 3 3/8 inches, a piece of Whisper White which measures 3 inches by 3 1/4 inches, and a piece of Designer Series paper for the cup. I haven't decided what I'm going to use, except I've pulled out these two. I might use that one, or I might use that one. Both of these are from the Neutrals family 6x6 Designer Series paper, the packs. And you will also need a piece of Whisper White that's approximately, I think, 5 inches by 5 inches to do all the stamping of all the flowers here. Needless to say, I've already done all my flowers. What shall we do first? We need the Big Shot to cut those out, but I think we could do our 3 big sheets first. So, oh, we also need the Big Shot for the teacup as well. So let's work with these first. I should have started off with a fairly clear desk rather. Right, okay. So what you need is, to start off with, is your trimmer. You can use your trimmer as your scoreboard as well later, if you prefer that. Right, just make sure you've got all that in view. Now I am going to read from my book, because I don't want to make any mistakes here. So, crumb cake piece, what you need to do is to line it up on the vertical side. Okay, so that's the short side. And on here, line it up on 1 1/8 over here. Okay, so that's there, and make sure this cardstock is pushing up against the edge there and the edge there. And then you are going to cut from 1 1/2 inches to 6 5/8 inches. So that's 1 1/2 to 6 5/8, and then you're going to turn your cardstock 180 degrees and repeat. So line that up at 1 1/8 inches, make sure it's pushed up against the edge, and then cut from 1 1/2 inches to 6 5/8. So that's any cutting you need to do on there. The next piece is the Whisper White, and this one you need to line up at the 1 inch mark over there. Again, make sure this is all lining up at the top there, it's pushing against the top there. And then you need to cut from 1 3/8 inches to 6 1/2 inches. So that's 1 3, oh no, that's scoring, that's why it's not moving. 1 3/8 inches to 6 1/2. And then turn your cardstock 180 degrees and repeat. So that's line it 1 inch, make sure it's pushing up the top, cut rather, from 1 3/8 to 6 1/2. And then on the vertical side, horizontal side, sorry, line it up at 1 3/8. Now we have to come over to this side. So line up at 1 3/8. Make sure you're pushing against the edge there, and then cut from 1 inch to 4 1/2 inches. If you only have metric on your band here, and you want to do like I have with the inches, I've cut this from a sheet of our grit paper and just adhered it on. It works a treat. Right, that's obviously not lining up. Never mind, we can sort that out. Turn your cardstock 180 degrees and repeat. So that was line it up with 1 3/8 inches. Make sure they're both up against the edge there. And then cut from 1 inch to 4 1/2 inches. Now this should fall out, but mine never does. So just take your paper snips and cut the edges so that they meet up. You probably only need to do a tiny little snip. Is that one? That one. Oops, sorry. Let's try up there. Oh, okay. Then that one. Okay, so save that for something else. You don't need it on this project. Now what you need to do is put it in landscape, so that's the long side up there, and cut this at 4 inches, which is there. Okay, so hold it, make sure you've got the edges up there again, but you need to cut that side and that side, so you need to hold your cardstock nice and firmly. Okay, and then cut. So you finish up with that. And then the piece you have left, line it up at 1 7/8. Make sure you're up there. Oops, let's bring the cutting blade down. And make sure that this isn't going to move. I'm actually holding my cardstock down under my thumb there, and I'm holding it with there so it's not going to move. Okay, so you've got those pieces. That's the bit where I cut it too far, but most of that's going to be covered up anyway because of the designer series paper. Now you've done that one, we're going to work on this one, and vertical first. We're going to line this up at 7/8, which is just before that 1 inch. It's the second line in from the 1 inch. And then we are going to cut from 1 1/4 inches to 6 1/4 inches. Turn the designer series paper 180 degrees and repeat. So that's line up at 7/8 of an inch and cut from 1 1/4 inches to 6 1/4 inches. All these measurements, cut lines, etc. will be in the box below. Now turn your designer series paper so that it's horizontal or landscape, whichever you prefer. And now you need to line it up at 1 1/4, which you can just about do on there. Can you see that line? Yep, that is the 1 1/4 mark. Okay, make sure you're up nice and firm up there, and you want to cut from 7/8 of an inch to 4 5/8. So that's 7/8 to 4 5/8. Turn your design series paper 180 degrees and do the same. So that was line up at 1 1/4 and cut from 7/8 to 4 5/8 inches. And that should fall out. Ooh, wow, 3 out of 4 is jolly good for me. There we go. So save that for another project. Now if you turn this on the horizontal side again, and you're going to cut at 3 7/8. Make sure you're nice and firm. Hold it steady. Come this side and cut. So you've got that one. And then you're going to line up at 1 3/4 up against there. Hold these two nice and firm. Oops, bring that back down, and then cut. So you have all of your layers. Isn't that brilliant? So absolutely excellent. Thank you, Annette. Right, I'm going to do my scoring using my scoreboard. If you prefer to use your trimmer, by all means. Okay, so now we are going to do some scoring on the piece of crumb cake that we've cut there. Now what we're going to do here is, if I can uncover all my work. Right. Okay. Right. To start off with, we are just going to do some scoring above that cut line. Okay. So we are going to score at 4 1/8 inches and 6 1/8 inches. Okay, 4 1/8, 6 1/8. Now we are going to turn this 180 degrees, and this time we are going to score at 2 1/8 inches and 4 1/8 inches, just down to the cut. Okay, so you should find, I don't know why that went blurred. Right, so you should find that that is parallel to that one, and that, not parallel, is level with that one. Okay, was it just the 2 lines we needed? Oh yes, that's right, because it's 1, 2, yeah. Right, now we need to do score lines in this bit here, which can be a little bit tricky. But what I tend to do is I use my ruler, and just to give myself a bit of a fighting chance of getting this correct, you need to score on here at 1 1/2 inches and 2 1/2 inches. So I'm just going to measure where those are. Which is going to be about there and about there. Right, so put that right in the corner. Now I know that I've got to find the groove about there. Okay, it saves trying to come a little wobble down there. I have done it, but I've done it wrong when I've done it that way. And that's the 2.5 mark. So you're scoring in between the cut lines at 1.5 inches and 2.5 inches. And then you are going to turn 180 degrees and repeat. So I am going to repeat marking mine. So that's 1.5, which should line up with the end of your cut line there. And that's 2.5. Okay. So 1.5 inches and 2.5 inches. There we go. So that's how we get our double fold card. To fold this, what we're going to do is we are going to make the first fold here a valley fold, no, a mountain fold, sorry, it's got to come up, that's it, and then the next one is going to be a valley. Don't worry about these for the time being. And the next one's going to be a mountain, next one a valley, and these top ones we need as a mountain, and then these little ones here as valleys. Okay, so what you should find is that your card will fold like that. Okay, there's a little bit left over there, but that is what it's meant to be. So just give your score lines good creases. Always confuse myself how I get this done without putting folds in the wrong places. And I think that's just the last one, isn't it, that one? So now we can start putting our card together. Where you've got a long straight piece here, that's the front of your card, and the shorter piece, that's the back of your card. So what we're going to do first is we're going to put all our bits and pieces on. So you need the Whisper White, which is going to go on there, and if your cutting is correct, you're going to find that you have this kind of a gap all the way round, and there is also, I don't know if you'll be able to see that, no, really need a white piece. Okay, so you can see how much gap is there, and then on that side as well. Alright, this to me is just absolutely amazing how it was ever worked out that you could do your layers like this. I mean, I like to think that I'm good at numbers, but I wouldn't have been able to think about this. Right, so I'm going to use Tombow to put my layers together. And to make it just a little bit easier, I'm going to do a bit at a time. So I'm going to get that in place, and I'm just watching to make sure I've got the same spaces there. That's good. Happy with that. And then this one should fit on and leave the white all the way round as well. Isn't that clever? So let's do this one. Again, leave yourself a little white edge all the way round. There we go. And now the two little white ones. If you find where your trimmer has been, it's left your edges a little bit raised, just go over it with your bone folder. It'll smooth it down. It's just one of those things that happens when your blades are getting a little bit worn. Right, now just make sure this white gets lined up with the white there. Again, nice gaps either end. That's it, line the white up. And then these two. I don't think there's a right or wrong way with this design. Again, leave yourself a nice white gap around. And then the last piece, this is a piece I cut too far, but as I say, it will get covered up mainly. But I'm going to turn it around that way, just find it easier. And get the back on there. Oops. Yep. You see that, all that glue? It's a bit clumsy. Right, let's do this one. No, it's still working backwards. Get back. That's better. Okay, so here we had this. That's better. Right. Now we put that piece on. I've done that wrong, haven't I? I need an extra, different colour there. Oh, that's a nuisance. Well, in that case, what shall I... Oh, there's my white piece. Have I got some Berry Burst handy? No. I remembered it on this one, and I put a pink layer. But I didn't on the Berry Burst. So, oh, what did I do? Oh, I see. No worries. Now, what size was this? Will that be big enough? Nope. Right, okay. This needs to be 3 1/8 by 3 3/8. Sorry about this. 3 and 1. And 3 and 3. There we go. I'll make sure the instructions in the box below give you the correct cardstock that you need. That's it. Okay, yep, that's fine. So let's adhere these two together. No, that's all right. I'm just thinking that I've stamped in the 4 corners. I'll show you in just a jiffy, and it will probably be easiest if I do that before I put this onto the main card. Make sure I've got the size right. Yep, that's okay. Right, okay, like this. So I'm going to, I experimented earlier with my 2 colours. It should be using, for this set, it should be soft sea foam, but I also tried with Pizzazz, and I think, although that's not strictly speaking the right colour, I think that's the one that's going to look best. So my stamp is this one here, and it's a very well used stamp from Cross of Hope. It's that one there. And I have to say, this is one of those stamps that I have cut because I found there was just too much rubber on it, and I just kept on getting the edges. But since I've done this, it works beautifully. So what did I say? Pizzazz. Let me just bring it down a little bit. How far? Oh, that's all right, yep. Only a small detail, but my goodness, it makes a lot of difference. There we go. So the next, in fact, yes, I will adhere this on because I want to try and decide which of the design series paper that I'm going to make my cup and saucer out of. And it'll be easier to tell if this piece is where it should be. There we go. And as I say, I have got my flowers ready. I will show you how I do them, but let me just use this as a guide for my colour. Do I want that one or do I want that one? Definitely don't want that. Or I got spots. No, this one. Okay, so that's what I'm going to be using. Right, let me show you the flowers. The stamp set is Tea Together, and I'm using that, no, not that one, and Happy Mother's Day as well. And the dies that I'm using are these, and these coordinate. And these are actually one of the celebration gifts, which you get a gift for every £45 or €60 you spend. But there are 2 gifts that are like level 2, which means you need to spend £90 or €120, and then you can get these as a gift. So let's put those there for a moment. So that one, and that one. So you need to do 4 of each of these if you're following the same design as me. Just move those out of the way once they're finished with. And while we're stamping, let's do our cup. You will find that when you get your set, that hole has already been cut, but you do get that piece of red rubber. But do hold on to it, because sometimes you can use those as like a background splodgy stamp. There we go. And then in the middle of that, I'm going to stamp my Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day stamp. Right, how close can I get? Okay. I should have done one of these ahead of time, just in case I make this one crooked. But I have to say, normally, in fact, let's have a look at this before I say it. Yes, it's a lot easier to get this straight now that we've got the labels that actually stick on the back. But I think I wobbled that, didn't I? Bear with me while I just do that one again. Right, concentrate, don't talk. Oh, much better. Right, so that will be ready for die cutting. So I use my marker pens for the colouring, and the green is saucy foam, and this is really amazing because you do one coat of it and it's quite light, okay, but then you just go over it again and it makes it so much darker. In fact, I will do just half of the leaf so you can see one dark half and one light half. Amazing, isn't it? So that's what I've done with all my leaves. I've gone over twice, and that's all I do, nothing fussy with them whatsoever. But with the flowers, what I do with this one first of all is I colour all round the edge. Okay, so I go around all 5 petals and then just colour that in. Nothing fancy. And then I go back over those outside lines again so that they become more prominent than the centre. And I fill in the gap there as well. So if it takes a couple of times going over it, that's fine. And then I just draw very gently 2 or 3 little lines coming up. you see that? So let me show you a completed flower. I wonder if you can see the lines. Oh yeah. Okay, so that's that one. With this one, again, I go around the edges. Obviously it's that much smaller. So you do need to be careful with that, this one. Again, colour it in, nothing special. But then again, go round the edge. So the edge on this one is the outside edge. And I'm just making sure that I get all the white areas. This little bit in the middle, I colour all of that in. But then round here, I do it dark again. And then just a couple of little lines going up. Okay, so that's a completed one. And then the big flower, again, I go all around the edges. On each petal. And just keep going until all the petals are done. Okay, so imagine it's all done, and then I just go over, colour in the white area. Okay, so I assume that's all done now. Just colour in the little white bits that get left over. And then I go around the edges again. It doesn't matter how much or how little you do of this. But then on to the next petal. And this one. And just keep going round till you've done all the petals. You've got your darker bit. And then a little bit on the inside as well. So you've effectively put dark bits around all your black lines. And then once I've finished doing all of that, I just use my pen again and just light little squiggly bits just to stop it being bland. Okay, so let me show you one of those. Each of mine come out very, very different. But when somebody looks at the card, they look at the overall thing. There's only another card maker that would take a critical look. Okay, so then you need to die cut all of those. And with this one, which is this little one here, you get 2 of these, which helps to speed the cutting out. Speeds it up a bit. Right, so I'm not going to show you how I cut those out because that's quite straightforward, but I will do my cut. So if I bring my big shot up, let's come back into a good shot here. Oh dear, no, don't do that. If you find your die jumps, take your paper with the die. Don't try and make the die stay where it doesn't want to be. You'll be fighting a losing battle. Oh, that feels nice and sturdy. Let me just tip it up. Yes. So let's cut that out. If you want to pop this up on dimensionals, which I haven't, I would recommend that you die cut a piece of Whisper White cardstock or another piece of cardstock so that you can adhere it on there. It's quite a large area to have dimensionals on because it is paper, Designer Series paper. The reason I didn't pop it up on dimensionals, although I do think it would look nice, is because when the card is flat and it goes in the envelope, it's going to be flattened down, which is why none of these flowers are on dimensionals either. Okay, so that's my reasoning behind what I've done. So let's just pop this on. There we go. Just hold that up to make sure it's straight. Yes, it's okay. So that's that. Now let me just put my flowers on. And I've got my dimensionals on there already. So that one there. And if you position this nicely, you can cover up. If you haven't cut this properly, like I haven't here, your flowers can cover it up for you. Okay, so nobody would know. Right, now that one. Don't you think this is a gorgeous colour? This is Berry Burst, which unfortunately will be leaving us when the current annual catalogue goes, which will be the 3rd of June. Right, let me just take this one now, because all the others, as I say, I've not used dimensionals on them, just made them flat. I like to think that all the cards that I show you how to make, I like to think that that they are all easy cards to make, and I certainly think that applies to this one, considering it is a fancy fold. Why did I turn that one on there? I think I must have been trying to cover something up, but I don't need it this time. There's that one. I have another one that I've started where I've painted all the flowers already, and I will try and get that finished while the video is being uploaded so I can show it on my blog on Sunday when I publish this. I'm just looking at my other card, following what I've done on there. A little bit out of screen there, aren't I? Out of shot. Just give that a little dab on some paper. It looks as if it's got too much glue on it. And there we go. That's today's card. I hope you like it. It does fit into one of our standard envelopes as well. I meant to say that to you. Have I got one? No, that's not one of ours. This is one of ours. Okay. Okay, so it does go in. If you have any of the flowers coming over the edge, make sure they go top or bottom. There really isn't any room at the sides there. Okay, so there we go. I hope you liked today's project and I really hope you give it a try. If you have any questions or any comments, please leave them in the box below the video. Where there's writing on, depends what device you're watching this on, but to open up the box below, either on the left hand side underneath some writing you'll see show more, so you click on that one, or on the right hand side you'll see one or two arrows. If there's two, click the lower one. If there's only one, obviously click that and it'll open the box up. All the information will be in there for you. All the measurements, all the score lines, all the cut lines, absolutely everything. But it is just inches because there were too many measurements involved for me to be able to be confident to convert them for you. But as I say, Annette's website, I'm sure, is in metric. And also, if you'd like to purchase any of the products that I featured here today, there'll be a link to my 24/7 online Stampin' Up shop in the box below. If you've enjoyed my video and you'd like to be notified each time I upload a new video, please click on the subscribe button that you can see in the right hand corner of your screen, and then remember to click on the bell as well so that you get the notifications. So many thanks for joining me today. Until next time, happy crafting. Cheerio.